This year, Microsoft has some big games that are being cooked up. Games like Redfall, the next Forza, and of course my personal hype, which is about Starfield. But now, today, they just announced that Redfall is going to be online only. Even if you're playing the single player, it's going to only pretty much exist on Game Pass. And even if you do buy the physical edition of the game itself, it's just a download code inside of a box that you buy at GameStop. And gamers are understandably pissed. But let's talk about that. What's up, gamers? DreamcastGuy here. Hi, hope you're having a great day. If you could like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. Real quick, before we start to dig into the nitty-gritty of this, I'm currently working on two big reviews, one for Atomic Heart and one for Like a Dragon Ishin, which is the new big Yakuza game. Those will both be out early next week. Now, let me just say, I am a little bit biased because I do love physical game collecting, but more than just personally having a passion for it, I feel like physical games serve a very important purpose. They cannot disappear. As we get closer and closer to the all-digital future, you have to realize there is a lot of big, cool projects that are getting completely erased from existence. Indie games, really cool, interesting online meta experiences that straight up are being vanished because they get deleted off of a server permanently. But let's start things off by just checking out this article over at Video Game Chronicle. Redfall's physical edition is going to have a download code instead of a disc, according to their frequently asked questions page. Now, understandably, the comments are incredibly fiery, so it's not a physical release. Cool. I hate this trend. Physical $70 game with no disc. No wonder it's called Redfall. The player base will fall to zero when the servers go offline. This is ridiculous. Game that requires an online connection requires an online connection. No news. Look, this guy right here, people trying to defend this, gamers should be asking for more and not less. I still straight up say that this is a ridiculous precedent to set. My camera is flashing at me. It may randomly die, but let's hope not. So this game is basically an NFT. So all physical games, this is the weird part, is that some people are trying to act like this is just a minor inconvenience. That, okay, every game requires patches, every game requires you to do some sort of digital update. In this case, they are just selling you a freaking download code. Now, here is why that sucks, is because since it is online only, it truly only exists when your console is talking to the internet. And you know what? This isn't the most breaking of news because earlier last year, if you bought the God of War Collector's Edition, it just came with a digital download code. I think this, though, is such a bad practice. Honestly, more and more companies are trying to lean into this idea of always online, and the reason I hate that is because when Xbox servers go down, which does happen pretty frequently, sometimes for days at a time, that means your game ceases to exist. Your game actually just vanishes. And people in this article are, of course, bringing up the importance of game preservation, the fact that back in the day, if you wanted to buy a retro experience, it existed forever. Stuff you bought on a cartridge can still be played. The original PlayStation 1 games can still be played. This copy of Dead Space can be played forever. Whereas now, Microsoft is actually leaning into this all-digital future way too hard, in my opinion. Like, recently, they released Hi-Fi Rush, which personally, I freaking loved, but the game only exists digitally, and it has a bunch of licensed music in it, which means that if 9 Inch Nails, their contract goes up with this game, they're going to delete it. This game, as cool as it is, as epic as it is, as fun as it is, it definitely has an expiration date on it where eventually it is going to get Thanos snapped because it now needs to constantly pay upkeep or else it ceases to exist. I miss physical games, and what's weird to me is that honestly, there is a problem with this. People have been writing articles right lately. This is one that actually came out just today over on gamesindustry.biz, and it's about how the problem with this big push for Microsoft dominating the space with them doing this Game Pass takeover is because in the short term, it is going to be utterly fantastic. You get hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of games for dirt freaking cheap. Undeniably, that is fantastic. But what happens when some of these games start to get shut off? What happens if, like Sea of Thieves, is it really going to exist without an online connection? Games like freaking Halo Infinite's multiplayer will not exist if the servers for some reason crash, but they are still at least playable. Now, a lot of people have basically said, okay, I'm shrugging at this. You know, it sounds weird in the long term, but in the short term, this is still fantastic. This article is very long, it's very, very in-depth, and they bring up an interesting analogy, which is Airbnb. Essentially what they're talking about is that here in America, we're having this major plague where weirdo billionaires are scooping up tons and tons and tons of houses in order to rent them out, which is kind of breaking the housing market. There's a lot of talk about the fact that Airbnb is completely tanking the ability to even buy, as a normal family, an actual house. But this is what the point this guy is trying to basically make, is that right now, Microsoft is becoming Airbnb. Microsoft is stepping into the retail space and buying up studios, exclusivity rights, every bit of stuff they can to put on Game Pass, which is fantastic. But what happens when they start pricing everybody out? They're probably going to do what Airbnb is doing. Now, Airbnb has grown to be incredibly expensive. Something that at one point was a cheaper alternative to hotels is now crammed with hidden fees, stupid costs, constantly just stupid blackout dates. I think that right now, this is a good analogy. Right now, Game Pass isn't just trying to curate a good selection of software to attract and lock in consumers. It's a means to an end. They're trying to get you to lock into their publishing scheme, their ability to basically only play on Game Pass. If they start to edge people out, I do think that this is going to be more than just the price point. I think that this is more than just the fact that Game Pass is eventually, of course, going to get more expensive. We've seen them jack up the price of stuff like Amazon Prime and Netflix, Spotify. I think that to me is not my issue. I am more concerned about these digital-only, online-only games that exist on Game Pass, because I really feel like these games will not stand the test of time. I personally, as a person who is excited for Redfall, I think it does taint my excitement knowing that it is a game that has a very short, finite existence. The fun I have in this game, even after I probably beat it, after I hit max level, I mean, there is going to be a point where it just ceases to exist, where the game itself is going to go poof. And that's, I don't know, that to me really kind of throws a wet blanket onto my excitement, knowing that the game I'm playing is about to get deleted. Maybe not in 6 months or a year, but it's coming. And that to me it's ridiculous. This is the darkest part of the digital future, is that nothing is forever. A game you bought, a game you paid $70 for, you know, everything is temporary. But what do you guys think? Are you still excited for Redfall? Are you excited for Starfield like I am? Please tell me your thoughts in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this video, give it a big old thumbs up, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. And please keep dreaming. Also, remember, next week, Atomic Heart review, Like a Dragon Ishin, Yakuza review. I've already played the heck out of them. Am I allowed to say that? I am playing a ton of Atomic Heart, and I have a lot to say. That video is going to be like 20 minutes long. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, you know, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.